Jake Morrison stood on the balcony of his office, watching the morning sun rise over New Haven's vast wheat fields. The golden crops stretched to the horizon, swaying gently in the warm breeze. Children's laughter echoed from the nearby school, where his daughter Lisa taught the younger kids. It was a perfect morning on their peaceful colony world. New Haven had been home to 2.3 million people for over 60 years. Families had built their lives here, farming the rich soil and raising their children under alien stars. The colony was humanity's farthest outpost, sitting on the edge of known space. But that distance felt like safety, not danger. "Dad, you're going to be late for the harvest meeting," Lisa called from inside the office. She had inherited her mother's smile and her father's stubborn determination. At 28, she was the youngest teacher on New Haven, but the kids loved her. Jake smiled and walked back inside. "The farmers can wait 5 minutes. I was just thinking how lucky we are." "Lucky to live on a dirt ball in the middle of nowhere?" Lisa teased. "Lucky to have peace," Jake replied. He picked up his tablet and headed for the door. "Keep the kids safe while I'm gone." "Always do," Lisa said, not knowing those would be her last words to him. The harvest meeting was in full swing when the first alien ships appeared in New Haven's sky. Ben Parker, the colony's security chief, burst into the town hall where 50 farmers were discussing crop yields. "We have visitors," Ben announced, his face pale. "Big ones. Really big ones." Jake felt his stomach drop. In 60 years, no alien species had ever contacted humanity. They had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "How many ships?" Jake asked, already reaching for his communicator. 400, maybe more. "They're huge, Jake. Our sensors can barely measure them," the farmers murmured nervously. Jake tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking. "Have they tried to communicate?" "Nothing. Not even a hello. They just showed up and started scanning us." Jake activated the colony's emergency broadcast system. His voice echoed across New Haven, reaching every home, farm, and workplace. "This is Administrator Morrison. We have unidentified vessels in our system. This is not a drill. Please remain calm and stay near your homes until we know more." Dr. Amy Foster was treating a broken arm at the colony hospital when she heard Jake's announcement. She had been New Haven's chief medical officer for 15 years, delivering babies and mending bones. She never imagined she would face anything worse than a farming accident. "Nurse Kelly, prep the emergency ward," Amy ordered. "Something feels wrong about this." High above New Haven, the alien commander studied the human colony with cold, calculating eyes. War Prime Zethkal of the Kethmer. Empire had conquered 17 worlds and eliminated 8 different species. To him, the humans below were just another pest problem to solve. "Such a pathetic species," Zethkal hissed to his officers. "Look how they cluster together like insects. No weapons, no defenses. They do not even try to flee. Should we offer them surrender terms, War Prime?" "Surrender? We do not negotiate with vermin. Begin the cleansing. Leave nothing alive." Back on New Haven, Ben Parker frantically worked at his security station. The alien ships had locked on to every major settlement and were powering up massive weapons. His training told him what was coming, but his heart refused to believe it. "Jake, you need to see this," Ben called over the radio. "They're targeting our cities." Jake was still in the town hall when the first energy beams struck. The northern farming district vanished in a flash of white light. The explosion shook the ground and shattered windows for miles around. "They're attacking." Someone screamed. Panic erupted in the hall. Farmers ran for the exits, desperate to reach their families. Jake grabbed his communicator and activated the emergency beacon that would send a message to Earth. It would take 3 months to reach home, but it was there. Only hope. "This is New Haven Colony," Jake shouted into the device as more explosions rocked the building. "We are under attack by unknown alien forces. 400 ships. They're killing everyone. Send help. Please send help." The transmission cut off as another energy beam struck the town hall. Jake felt the building collapse around him, but somehow the beacon kept transmitting. Images of the destruction, voices of the dying, and the face of their attackers all beamed toward distant Earth. Was evacuating her classroom when the school took a direct hit. She pushed the last child toward the emergency exit. Then the world went white. Across the colony, Amy Foster died while loading patients into ambulances. Ben Parker's final act was to keep the beacon running until his station melted around him. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. The Cathmer were thorough, destroying every building, every farm, and every shelter. They hunted down vehicles trying to escape and vaporized underground bunkers. When they were finished, New Haven was nothing but smoking craters and twisted metal. War Prime Zethkal surveyed his work with satisfaction. "Efficient as always," he told his officers. "Record this victory for the Empire. Another world claimed, another pest eliminated." The Cathmer ships descended to strip mine New Haven's resources. They built a military outpost where the capital city once stood, never bothering to confirm that every human was dead. In their arrogance, they assumed their superiority was absolute dot as the alien ships worked. A small piece of human technology drifted through space, carrying its precious cargo toward Earth. The emergency beacon tumbled through the void, bearing witness to the greatest tragedy in human history. Inside its memory banks were the final moments of 2.3 million people in the face of their killer. The beacon would travel for 3 months through the empty darkness between stars. When it finally reached Earth, it would change everything. Humanity would learn they were not alone in the universe, and that their neighbors were monsters. But War Prime Zethkal did not know about human nature. He did not understand that humans never forgot their dead or forgave their killers. He had just awakened something terrible, and it was coming for him. Admiral Jack Turner was enjoying his morning coffee in his office at Earth Defense Command when the alert came through. The emergency beacon from New Haven had finally reached the Sol system after its 3-month journey through space. Jack had been expecting a routine status report, not the nightmare that was about to unfold. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," Lieutenant Commander Kate Reynolds said as she burst into his office. Her usually calm face was pale with shock. "It's from New Haven." Jack set down his coffee and activated his main display. The beacon's data began to play, and within seconds, he understood why Kate looked so shaken. The images showed a peaceful farming colony under a blue sky, then alien warships filling the heavens like a plague of metal locusts. "Dear God," Jack whispered as he watched the bombardment begin. The energy beams carved through cities like they were made of paper. He saw children running from their school as it exploded behind them. He watched hospitals burn while doctors tried to save their patients. The worst part was Jake Morrison's final transmission. Jack could hear the terror in the colony administrator's voice as he begged for help that would never come. The man died trying to warn Earth about humanity's first contact with aliens, and that contact was genocide. How many people? Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. 2.3 million, sir. All dead. Every man, woman, and child. Kate's voice cracked slightly. The aliens call themselves the Cathmer Empire. Our computers analyzed their technology from the attack footage. Jack studied the alien ships on his screen. They were larger than anything humans had ever built, covered in weapon systems that could destroy entire cities with single shots. But what chilled him most was how casual the attack seemed. The aliens hadn't even tried to communicate. They had simply murdered an entire world because they could. "Get me President Adams on the secure line," Jack ordered, "and wake up the entire Defense Council. This changes everything." An hour later, Jack stood in the White House Situation Room, facing President Claire Adams and the most powerful people in human government. The beacon's footage played on the main screen, while military leaders and politicians watched in stunned silence. "This is first contact," President Adams said quietly. "We always wondered what we would find out there. Now we know." Defense Secretary Paul Evans leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral Turner, what do we know about these Kethmer?" Jack activated a new display showing Kate's analysis. "Intelligence. Officer Reynolds has been studying their transmissions. The aliens seem to view warfare as entertainment. They call other species pests and take pride in efficient extermination." "How advanced are they?" asked General Mike Ross, the head of Earth's ground forces. "Their individual ships are more powerful than ours," Jack admitted. But Kate found something interesting in their battle patterns. "They don't coordinate well. Each ship fights independently, like they're showing off rather than working together." Kate stepped forward to present her findings. "The Kethmar technology is superior, but they're overconfident. They expect easy victories against primitive species. They've never faced organized resistance from a united planetary government." "President." Adams studied the tactical displays. "What are you recommending, Admiral?" Jack took a deep breath. "We mobilize everything we have. Every ship, every weapon, every person willing to fight. We build the largest fleet in human history, and we make sure New Haven is the last human colony that dies." "How large a fleet are we talking about?" the President asked. "Conservative estimate, 700,000 ships minimum. We'll need to convert civilian vessels, expand our shipyards, and recruit from every human world. This isn't just about revenge. If we don't stop them, they'll find Earth eventually." The room erupted in discussions about logistics, resources, and timelines. Secretary Evans ran numbers on his tablet, while General Ross calculated personnel requirements. The scale of what Jack was proposing was staggering. "It will take everything we have," Treasury Secretary Linda Walsh warned. "Every credit, every resource, every factory. We'll have to restructure our entire economy around this war effort." "Then we do it," President Adams said firmly. "Admiral Turner, you have unlimited authority to build this fleet. Whatever you need, you get. I'll address the nation tonight." Over the following days, Earth transformed into a hive of activity. President Adams' speech had shown the beacon footage to the entire human population. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, demanding the chance to serve. Factory workers volunteered for double shifts to build warships. Retired officers returned to duty. Captain Steve Collins reported to Jack's office 3 days after the president's speech. Steve was one of Earth's best reconnaissance specialists, a quiet man who could sneak a ship through enemy territory and return with perfect intelligence. "You wanted to see me, Admiral?" Steve asked. "I'm giving you the most important mission in human history," Jack replied. "I need you to find the Kethmer Empire, learn everything about them, their fleet strength, their territories, their weaknesses." "Can you do it?" Steve nodded without hesitation. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow. Take the fastest ship we have and handpick your crew. Stay hidden, stay alive, and bring me the information I need to destroy these monsters." While Steve prepared for his dangerous mission, Admiral Rachel Stone worked around the clock to organize the growing fleet. Rachel had spent her career managing logistics, moving supplies, and personnel across the solar system. Now she faced the challenge of coordinating the largest military force ever assembled. "We're going to need new command structures," Rachel told Jack during one of their planning sessions. No human has ever commanded 700,000 ships simultaneously. Hell, no one in galactic history has probably tried it. Jack nodded. That's why I'm putting you in charge of fleet coordination. If anyone can make this work, it's you. The shipyards. At Mars, Europa, and Titan worked day and night. Civilian asteroid miners were converted into warships. Luxury cruise ships received armor plating and missile launchers. Even old cargo haulers were pressed into service as support vessels. Dr. Paul Evans led the effort to understand Kethmer psychology and technology. Paul had spent his career studying alien artifacts found on dead worlds, never imagining he would face living aliens bent on humanity's destruction. They're predators, Paul explained to the Defense Council, but they're used to hunting prey that can't fight back. They've grown soft from too many easy victories. That's going to be their downfall. What do you mean? President Adams asked. They expect surrender or panic. They've never faced an enemy that gets stronger when attacked. Human nature is to fight harder when cornered, but most species just give up. The Kethmer don't know what they've awakened. Engineer Sam Taylor worked with Paul to develop new weapons specifically designed to counter Kethmer technology. Sam had built some of humanity's most advanced ships, but now he focused on creating tools of war. Their shields are strong, but they have a specific frequency, Sam explained to his design team. If we can match that frequency, we can punch right through their defenses. And their armor is tough, but it's designed to stop energy weapons. Good old-fashioned kinetic rounds might surprise them. As the months passed, the human fleet grew from thousands to hundreds of thousands of ships. Captain Scott Mitchell was given command of the flagship UE as Vengeance, a massive dreadnought built specifically for the coming war. Commander Beth Wright and Captain Dan Hughes led battle groups that were larger than Earth's entire pre-war navy. The most difficult part was the waiting. Every day that passed meant the Kethmer grew stronger and potentially discovered more human colonies. But Jack knew they only had one chance to get this right. If humanity's fleet failed, there would be no second opportunity. The bastards think. They're apex predators, Jack told his senior officers during their final planning meeting. They're about to learn that humans are the deadliest species in the galaxy when someone hurts our family. New Haven was our family, and we're going to make them pay for every single life they took. 18 months after New Haven's destruction, the Sol system had become the largest military shipyard in galactic history. Every asteroid belt hummed with construction activity. Every moon hosted weapons factories. Earth itself had been transformed into a massive recruitment and training center for the coming war. Admiral Jack Turner stood on the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, watching thousands of ships conduct formation drills in the space around Mars. The sight still amazed him. Humanity had built 700,000 warships in less than 2 years, converting their entire civilization into a war machine focused on a single goal: revenge. Admiral, Captain Collins is requesting permission to dock, announced Communications Officer Tony Martinez. He's back from his reconnaissance mission. Jack felt his pulse quicken. Steve Collins had been gone for 8 months, deep in Kethmer territory, gathering the intelligence they needed to plan their assault. His return meant the war could finally begin. Grant permission immediately, Jack ordered, and have him report to my ready room the moment he's aboard. 20 minutes later, Steve Collins sat across from Jack, looking older and more tired than when he had left. Extended deep space missions took their toll, but the haunted look in Steve's eyes suggested he had seen more than just empty space. Report. Captain, Jack said simply. Steve activated a holographic display showing a 3-dimensional map of local space. Red markers indicated Kethmer-controlled systems, spreading across 47 star systems like a cancer. The Kethmer Empire is bigger than we thought, Steve began. 47 systems, dozens of species enslaved or extinct. Their total fleet strength is approximately 80,000 ships. But here's the important part. They're spread thin. Jack leaned forward, studying the tactical display. Explain. They're fighting wars on multiple fronts, Steve continued. The Vaktoth Confederacy to the north, the Merlian Republic to the east, and some species called the Zethani to the south. The Kethmer are arrogant enough to think they can conquer everyone at once. That's good for us, Jack mused. Divided attention means divided forces. It gets better. I managed to infiltrate one of their supply convoys and plant listening devices. The Kethmer are overconfident to the point of stupidity. They think their technology makes them invincible. They've never faced coordinated resistance from a unified species. Steve changed the display to show detailed scans of Kethmer ships. Their vessels are individually superior to ours, but they fight like it's a competition. Each captain tries to outdo the others instead of working together. They have no concept of fleet-level tactics. Jack smiled grimly. And we have the largest coordinated fleet in galactic history. Exactly. They're used to bullying primitive civilizations with a few hundred ships at most. They've never seen anything like what we're building. The two men spent the next hour reviewing Steve's intelligence. The Kethmer military structure was built around individual glory rather than collective victory. Their war primes competed for status by achieving the most spectacular kills. It was a warrior culture that prized style over substance. There's something else, Steve said, his voice dropping. I found 3 more dead human colonies. Jack's blood ran cold. What? Smaller settlements we lost contact with over the past few years. We thought they were just communication failures. The Kethmer found them first. Small farming worlds, maybe 10,000 people each. They're all gone. The revelation hit Jack like a physical blow. New Haven wasn't the first. Humanity had been under attack for years without even knowing it. Somewhere out there, more human colonies might be facing the same fate right now. We move up the timeline, Jack declared. No more delays, no more preparations. We launch in 1 month. Over the following weeks, the human fleet underwent its final preparations. Admiral Rachel Stone worked miracles coordinating the massive force, dividing it into battle groups that could operate independently while maintaining overall unity of command. We're going to have communication delays, Rachel explained to the senior staff. Commands from the flagship to the outer battle groups will take several minutes. Each group commander needs to understand the overall strategy and adapt to changing conditions. Captain Scott Mitchell had spent months drilling his crew aboard the UES Vengeance. The massive dreadnought served as the fleet's command ship, bristling with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Scott was a veteran of the corporate wars, one of the few humans with experience commanding large space battles. The crew is ready, Admiral, Scott reported. We've run every simulation possible. The Vengeance will hold the center of our formation and coordinate the assault. Commander Bethwright commanded the 5th Battle Group, 15,000 ships tasked with rapid strike operations. Beth had started her career as a fighter pilot and worked her way up through pure skill and determination. Her battle group specialized in hit-and-run tactics that would confuse and demoralize enemy forces. My ships are fast and deadly, Beth told the planning committee. We'll hit their flanks, disappear before they can respond, then hit them somewhere else. Keep them guessing, while the main force closes for the kill. Captain Dan Hughes led the 8th Battle Group, heavy assault ships designed to break through fortified positions. Dan was a former Marine who understood that sometimes the only way through an obstacle was to smash it into pieces. We're the hammer, Dan explained to his captains. When the enemy thinks they've found a safe position, we'll show them there's no such thing. Engineer Sam Taylor had successfully adapted human weapons to counter Kethmer technology. The new frequency-matched missiles could penetrate alien shields, while kinetic projectiles would bypass their energy-absorbing armor entirely. The Kethmer have never faced projectile weapons, Sam explained during a technical briefing. Their shields are designed to deflect energy, but a solid chunk of tungsten moving at high velocity will go right through. Dr. Paul Evans had developed psychological warfare tactics based on his study of Kethmer behavior. The aliens were used to instilling fear in their enemies, but they had never experienced terror themselves. "We're going to show them something they've never seen," Paul told the command staff. "A fleet so large it blocks out stars. They've spent their entire existence as the biggest predators in the galaxy. Time to show them what a real apex predator looks like." The final fleet review took place in the space around Jupiter. Over 700,000. Ships formed a formation so vast it took hours to fly from one end to the other. Massive dreadnoughts anchored the center, while cruisers and destroyers filled the gaps. Fighter squadrons swarmed around the larger vessels like angry hornets. President Claire Adams addressed the fleet via subspace communication, her image appearing on every ship simultaneously. "You carry with you the hopes and prayers of all humanity. The people of New Haven cannot be brought back, but they can be avenged. Make the galaxy remember that humanity protects its own." Jack stood on the Vengeance's bridge, looking out at the assembled might of his species. In less than 2 years, humanity had transformed from a peaceful colonial power into a galactic superpower. The Kethmer had awakened something terrible, and now they would face the consequences. "All ships report ready for departure," announced Communications Officer Martinez. "Signal the fleet," Jack ordered. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination, Kethmer space. Time to collect a debt." A massive fleet began its jump sequence, hundreds of thousands of ships disappearing into hyperspace in perfect coordination. They were no longer explorers or traders or farmers. They were humanity's vengeance made manifest, and they were coming for the monsters who had murdered their people. In Kethmer space, War Prime Zethkal continued his campaigns against the other species, completely unaware that his greatest victory had become his death sentence. The slaughter at New Haven had been so easy, so routine, that he had forgotten about it entirely. He was about to be reminded in the most devastating way possible. The human armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Kethmer territory like a plague of metal locusts. 700,000 ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor and their weapons charged for war. Admiral Jack Turner stood on the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, watching his tactical display as the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for its first battle. "All ships report successful jump completion," announced Communications Officer Tony Martinez. "Formation is holding steady." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of 2.3 million dead souls pressing down on his shoulders. Every human aboard every ship carried the same burden. They were no longer just soldiers or sailors. They were the instruments of humanity's vengeance. "Signal." "The fleet," Jack ordered. "Execute Plan Alpha. Target system, Veltar." The massive formation began to move, tens of thousands of ships adjusting course toward the Kethmer border system. Veltar was a mining colony defended by what Kethmer intelligence considered a substantial garrison. 3,000 warships protected the system's valuable asteroid fields and orbital refineries. Fleet Commander Vekmal of the Kethmer Third Fleet was enjoying his morning meal when his sensors detected the approaching human force. His first reaction was amusement. Another primitive species had finally developed space travel and wanted to challenge the mighty Kethmer Empire. "How many ships are they sending?" Vekmal asked his tactical officer. "Initial scans show." "This cannot be correct, Fleet Commander. The sensors indicate at least 50,000 vessels approaching. Vekmal laughed, spitting out his drink. 50,000? These primitives do not even know how to count their own ships. Run the scan again. The tactical officer frantically worked his controls, running multiple sensor sweeps. Each scan confirmed the impossible. Fleet Commander, I am detecting 50,000 human warships in attack formation. This reading is confirmed by all sensor stations. The amusement drained from Vekmal's face. 50,000 ships was more than most Kethmer sector fleets. It was impossible. No species had ever built such a massive force. But the sensors did not lie. Send a priority message to High Command, Vekmal ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. All available ships. Fleet Commander, the nearest reinforcements are 6 hours away. Vekmal studied his tactical display, trying to process what he was seeing. The human formation was perfect, each ship in precise position relative to its neighbors. This was not a rabble of primitive vessels. This was a coordinated military force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships prepare for combat. Show these humans what Kethmer steel can do. The first Battle of the Human War began when Captain Scott Mitchell's forward elements engaged the Kethmer outer perimeter. The alien ships opened fire, their energy weapons lashing out across the void with devastating power. Several human destroyers vanished in balls of plasma, their crews dying instantly. But for every human ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. The Kethmer found themselves facing an endless wave of enemies, each one coordinated with military precision that defied their understanding. Focus fire on their command ship, Mitchell ordered his battle group. Take out their coordination, and the rest will fall apart. The UES Vengeance and her escort squadrons concentrated their assault. On Vekmal's flagship, the massive Kethmer dreadnought weathered the initial barrage, its shields flaring under the combined firepower of hundreds of human vessels. Sir, their shields are adapting to our energy weapons, reported Weapons Officer Carol Brooks. Switch to kinetic rounds, Mitchell ordered. Let's see how they handle old-fashioned bullets. The human ships launched volleys of tungsten projectiles at incredible velocity. The Kethmer shields, designed to deflect energy attacks, offered no protection against solid matter. The projectiles punched through the alien defenses and tore into their hull armor. Vekmal watched in horror as his shields failed and human weapons carved through his ship's armor like it was made of paper. His crew screamed as the bridge exploded around him, and his last thought was how wrong they had been about human capabilities. The battle lasted 4 hours, ending in complete human victory. 3,000 Kethmer ships became debris fields, drifting through space. The human fleet suffered losses of less than 200 vessels, a casualty rate so low it barely registered on their tactical displays. Send a message to all human forces, Jack ordered from the Vengeance's bridge. Veltar is secured. Begin Phase 2 of the operation. News of the human attack spread through Kethmer space like wildfire. Fleet commanders who had never known. Defeat suddenly faced reports of an enemy that fought with impossible coordination and overwhelming numbers. The psychological impact was devastating. War Prime Zethkal received the news while commanding operations against the Vaktoth Confederacy. The message from Veltar made no sense. Humans were supposed to be extinct, wiped out in a routine cleansing operation 2 years ago. Find me everything we know about this human species, Zethkal ordered his intelligence staff. How did they survive? Where did this fleet come from? The intelligence reports painted a terrifying picture. Humans had not just survived the attack. On New Haven, they had used it as motivation to build the largest military force in galactic history. Every intelligence estimate suggested they now controlled more warships than the entire Kethmer Empire. Impossible, Zethkal snarled. No species builds 700,000 ships in 2 years. The logistics alone would be insurmountable. War Prime, perhaps we should consider negotiating with them. The Kethmer do not negotiate with prey animals. We destroy them. But even as he spoke, more reports arrived of human victories. Admiral Rachel Stone's battle groups were systematically destroying Kethmer outposts and shipyards. Captain Collins led deep strike missions against communication hubs, blinding the alien fleet's coordination efforts. Commander Beth Wright's 5th Battle Group specialized in hit-and-run attacks that appeared from nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Her ships struck 3 different systems in a single day, leaving burning space stations and dead fleets in their wake. "They're everywhere at once," complained Fleet Commander Gorthick during an emergency meeting of Kethmer leadership. "We send forces to defend one system, and they attack 5 others." Captain Dan Hughes led the assault on the fortress world of Krektar, where the Kethmer had built what they considered an impregnable defensive position. Orbital weapon platforms and minefields protected the approach routes, while the planet's surface bristled with ground-based missiles. "Sir, their defenses are formidable," reported Hughes' tactical officer. "Estimated casualties for a frontal assault are 30%. "Then we don't make a frontal assault," Hughes replied. "We make 5 simultaneous attacks from different vectors, overwhelm their targeting systems." The 8th Battle Group split into multiple formations, each one larger than most species' entire navies. They attacked Krektar from every direction at once, their coordinated assault turning the fortress world's defenses into a liability. The defensive systems could not track thousands of targets simultaneously. Krektar fell in 6 hours. It's mighty. Fortifications reduced to rubble by sustained bombardment. The Kethmer garrison, that had considered themselves invincible, died without inflicting significant casualties on their attackers. As the human advance continued, Kethmer morale began to collapse. These aliens fought with a level of coordination and determination that defied everything the Kethmer understood about warfare. They showed no mercy to military targets, but carefully avoided civilian casualties, demonstrating a level of tactical precision that terrified enemy commanders. "They fight like a single organism," War Prime Zethkal told his staff during another crisis meeting. "Every ship perfectly coordinated with every other ship. How do they maintain such control across so many vessels?" The answer would have horrified him even more than the question. Humans fought with such coordination because they were united by grief and rage. Every captain, every crew member, every soldier carried the same burning desire to avenge the innocent. "Dead of New Haven, pull back all forces to the core systems," Zethkal finally ordered. "Abandon the outer territories and concentrate our strength. If these humans want a final battle, we will give them one they will never forget." The human fleet received Zethkal's withdrawal order through intercepted communications, and Jack Turner smiled for the first time since learning of New Haven's destruction. "They're running scared," he told his senior staff. "The mighty Kethmer Empire is retreating from a species they tried to exterminate. Signal all battle groups. Time to finish what they started." The final battle for Kethmer Prime began when 200,000 human warships surrounded the Kethmer homeworld, creating a blockade so vast it literally eclipsed the system's star. From the planet's surface, terrified civilians watched, their sky filled with alien vessels until day became night. Admiral Jack Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, studying the tactical display that showed the last stronghold of the Kethmer Empire. 20,000 enemy ships defended their homeworld, including every surviving vessel from their once mighty fleet. It was still an impressive force by any normal standard, but these were not normal times. "All battle groups report ready for final assault," announced Communications Officer Tony Martinez. "The blockade is complete, Admiral. Jack nodded, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. This moment would decide the fate of two species. The humans had come seeking justice for New Haven, but how that justice was delivered would define what humanity became in the galaxy. "Open a channel to the Kethmer fleet," Jack ordered. "Let me speak to their commander." The main screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of War Prime Zethkal aboard his flagship. The alien who had ordered the massacre of New Haven looked older and more desperate than in the intelligence files, but his eyes still burned with the same cruel pride. "I am Admiral Jack Turner of the United Earth Defense Force," Jack began, his voice carrying across space to both fleets. "You are responsible for the murder of 2.3 million human civilians on the colony world of New Haven. Surrender unconditionally, and your people will be treated with mercy." Zethkal laughed, though the sound carried no humor. "Mercy? You speak of mercy while surrounding our homeworld with your primitive war machines? The Kethmer do not bow to inferior species." "Then you have chosen extinction," Jack replied coldly. "All ships, prepare for final assault." The human fleet began its attack with a coordinated bombardment that lit up space like a new sun. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles crossed the void in perfectly timed volleys, each one aimed with lethal precision. The Kethmer defenders responded with desperate fury, their weapons lashing out at the overwhelming force surrounding them. Captain Scott Mitchell commanded the central assault from the UE's Vengeance, his massive dreadnought leading the charge toward Zethkal's flagship. The two command ships traded devastating blows while smaller vessels swarmed around them like angry insects. "Sir, their flagship's shields are failing," reported Weapons Officer Carol Brooks. "One more concentrated. Barrage should finish them." "Hold fire," Mitchell ordered, surprising his crew. "Let me speak to Admiral Turner first." On the Vengeance's bridge, Jack watched the tactical display as the Kethmer fleet crumbled under the human assault. Their individual ships were still powerful, but they fought without coordination, each captain seeking personal glory instead of working together. It was exactly the weakness Captain Collins had identified during his reconnaissance mission. "Commander, Beth-Wright's 5th Battle Group struck at the enemy flanks, her ships appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Each attack destroyed dozens of Kethmer vessels before vanishing into the chaos of battle. The aliens could not adapt to tactics they had never encountered before. Captain Dan Hughes led the frontal assault against the Kethmer's defensive formations, his heavy ships smashing through their lines like a hammer through glass. The enemy formation collapsed as human vessels poured through the gaps, surrounding isolated groups of defenders. Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from approximately 30% of the enemy fleet, reported Martinez. Individual. Captains are laying down their weapons. Jack felt a moment of satisfaction. Even in defeat, some Kethmar were showing more wisdom than their leaders. But Zethkal's flagship continued to fight, its weapons blazing defiance even as its escorts died around it. The battle raged for 3 days, the longest engagement of the entire war. The Kethmer fought with the desperation of a cornered animal. But desperation could not overcome the overwhelming superiority of human numbers and tactics. One by one, their ships fell silent. "Sir, Zethkal's flagship is the last enemy vessel still fighting," Mitchell reported. "Their weapons are offline. Life support is failing. Do we finish them?" Jack stared at the image of the dying Kethmer. Flagship, thinking of Jake Morrison and his daughter Lisa, of Dr. Amy Foster and Ben Parker, of all the innocent people who had died without warning or mercy. The desire for revenge burned in his chest like molten metal. "Negative," he said finally. "Offer them one final chance to surrender." The communication channel opened again, showing Zethkal's bridge in ruins. The alien commander was bleeding from multiple wounds, his crew dead or dying around him. but his eyes still held the same arrogant pride that had led him to order the massacre of New Haven. "This is your final warning," Jack said. "Surrender now, or we will destroy your ship." Zethkal struggled to his feet, leaning against his command. "Chair, the Kethmer do not surrender to prey animals. We die with honor." "Then die," Jack replied. The U's vengeance fired a single torpedo, ending Zethkal's life and his ship in a burst of white light. The War Prime, who had boasted of his efficient extermination of human pests, became nothing more than expanding gas and twisted metal. With their fleet destroyed and their leader dead, the remaining Kethmer forces on the planet's surface surrendered unconditionally. Jack ordered his ships to stand down, ending the largest space battle in galactic history. But the war's end brought new challenges. President Claire Adams arrived aboard the diplomatic vessel U's Harmony to oversee the occupation of Kethmer. Space. The human government faced difficult decisions about what to do with a conquered empire. "We could enslave them like they enslaved others," suggested General Mike Ross during a strategy meeting. "Give them a taste of their own medicine." "That would make us no better than them," Jack replied. "We came here for justice, not to become monsters ourselves." Dr. Paul Evans had been studying Kethmer culture during the occupation, interviewing prisoners and civilians to understand their society. His findings were disturbing, but not entirely hopeless. "They're a warrior culture that respects strength above all else," Paul explained to the Leadership Council. "They see mercy as weakness, but they also understand that only the strongest can afford to show mercy. If we treat them fairly while demonstrating our superior power, we might actually earn their respect." President Adams made the decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy. "We will not repeat their mistakes. Kethmer civilians will be protected and allowed to rebuild their society under human oversight. Their military will be disbanded, but their people will not be enslaved or exterminated." The announcement shocked the surviving Kethmer leadership. They had expected either extinction or enslavement, the standard fate of species conquered by galactic powers. Instead, the humans offered something unprecedented: peace with dignity. "You destroyed our fleet and killed our War Prime," said Kethmer Counselor Vex Tar during surrender negotiations. "Why do you not finish the slaughter?" Jack answered for all humanity. "Because we are not you. We fight to protect the innocent, not to murder them. Your people were led by monsters, but that does not make them monsters themselves." The Kethmer Empire was dissolved, its 47 systems placed under human administration. But rather than becoming an occupying force, humanity became something new, a galactic protector. The other species that had been fighting the Kethmer approached Earth with offers of alliance and mutual defense. Admiral Rachel Stone was appointed as the first human ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Council, a diplomatic body created to prevent future genocides. The human fleet, now the undisputed dominant force in local space, became the foundation of a new order based on protection rather than conquest. Captain Collins was promoted to admiral and given command of the frontier defense forces, tasked with ensuring that no other species would suffer New Haven's fate. His ships patrolled the borders of known space, ready to respond to any threat against peaceful civilizations. The 700,000-ship fleet that had brought justice to the Kethmer was reorganized into the Galactic Defense Force. Every battle group carried the name New Haven somewhere in its designation, ensuring that the massacred colony would never be forgotten. "We set out to avenge our dead," Jack told the assembled fleet during a ceremony honoring the fallen. "But we accomplished something greater. We showed the galaxy that strength can be used to protect rather than destroy, that justice can be delivered without becoming injustice ourselves." The war that began with the murder of 2.3 million innocent people ended with humanity becoming the galaxy's guardians. The Kethmer had sought to exterminate what they saw as an inferior species. Instead, they had awakened Earth's children to their true potential. In the years that followed, human colonies spread across former Kethmer space, bringing peace and prosperity to worlds that had known only war. The name New Haven was given to the first new settlement, built on the site where Zethkal's fortress had once stood, and in the depths of space, human warships continued their endless patrol, ensuring that genocide would never again darken. The stars, the 700,000 ships that had eclipsed the sky above Kethner Prime, became symbols of hope for every peaceful species in the galaxy. Humanity had learned